Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Bench Your Addiction with Ryan and Greg. Today, Greg's under movement, and it's going to be fun, and we're going to bang this out. And today, we're going to talk about building self-esteem through actions and what that looks like. And I think we finished last week with talking about I always like to say, and Greg likes to say, the best way to build self-esteem is through esteemable acts, and the best way to get out of your own head is to help somebody else, right? And I always like to talk about that. And I was thinking about it this morning, there's little habits that I do that build wins for me right out the gate. Like I get up in the morning, I make my bed, I weigh myself, I write down my weight, make sure I have all this tracking. I make sure to drink a bunch of water first thing in the morning before I even start doing stuff, right? So just make sure I'm on my healthy habits, right? And that way I already have some success around health before I even start the rest of my day. And then from there on, I build from there. But that's pretty much how I just make sure to do that, and it feels good, right? It's just little habits that feel good every morning. What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, for sure. So it's, for a long time, and every once in a while, you still hear that "make your bed in the morning" kind of thing. I don't know which military personnel is responsible for giving that speech to you. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
But anyway, so make your bed in the morning so that you start off with a win, or you start off with some success. You start off with accomplishing something. No, in truth, I don't make my bed in the morning. I just take I don't even get under the sheets. I just take a blanket and throw it over the top. But I start my day off with water, and I cook my food for the day because I don't like to meal prep. I don't like to meal prep days in advance. So I just wake up early enough to make my food that I'm going to eat that day, that morning. So, I've already got my lunchbox in the truck, and I know what time I'm going to eat, right around 10 o'clock, right around 2 o'clock, and again around 6 o'clock. So I already have this routine. And even today, last night, I told my fiance I was going to come to the gym before all of this started. So lo and behold, I wake up at about 3:40. My alarm's set to go off at 4. And of course, I have that little bit of time laying there, and my mind's coming up with, you can put it off. You can wait. You don't have to do it right now. Kind of internal dialogue. And then this is where feelings, or what I feel like doing, need to take a back burner, right? So feelings don't dictate my actions as much anymore. I'd be lying if I said that feelings don't ever have a control of me. But for the most part, I felt like laying in bed and getting up at about 5 o'clock and blowing all of this off. But instead, 4 o'clock, the alarm goes off. Without thinking about it, I hit the button because I have an analog clock that I use. So I hit the button.
Old school.
Yeah, I know. Put my feet to the floor and start moving. I was still sleepy when I was moving, but wouldn't you know it? If you just start acting in a certain way, your body tends to follow, your mind tends to follow. So 15 minutes later, I wasn't sleepy anymore. Made my food, got my ass to the gym, and as I've already talked to you about, I've got a really busy day today, and this is the only time where I happen to already be at a gym. This is the only time that I'd be able to get any kind of sustained cardio in, although my job's physical, but who cares?
It's not the same.
So it's not that physical. Everyone wants to talk about how hard my job is. I move stuff, yeah, but I don't know. I'm not sheetrock working or whatever. So anyway, but I'm here. I'm getting it done. I'm starting to break a sweat because I've been at this for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to go for 30. And this is going to kick me off. I will have gotten more done by the time I show up for my shift than the guys that I'm working with will probably do all day long. Right? And that's very much like a Kobe Bryant mindset in regard to training, in regard to activity. If you start earlier, you get more done. If you get more done, you'll probably be ahead of the next guy. And it's really that simple. And when I know that I'm doing the best that I can, putting in the effort, I can feel good about myself. I don't have to sit in this comparison necessarily, but I feel good about what I'm doing, And in that way, I have peace. I may not have happiness all the time, but I have peace.
Yeah, man. I mean, I talk about that too now. Like, I joke with friends that like I do more before 9 a.m. than I used to do all day too. Like I'm the kind of person like I'm up early. I'm in the gym before 5. A lot of times I'll do laundry. I'll run the dishes. I'll do my meal prep just like you. And it's like by the time 8:30 comes around, I've got the kid ready for school and I'm going to actual work. It's like it's a whole different story. Like I've done so much more now that like the rest of the day is going to seem easy in comparison. Like work is whatever, 12 hours of work. It's not that hard. You know what I mean? It's all the morning routine that get me set up for it. Right. Like, and I even like try to set myself up success even farther. Like on the weekends, like I even make sure I get my gas tank filled. I get all these like little things that I know during the week I don't have time for, you know? And like, it's really just about setting yourself up for success and like being on top of that, right? So that we can keep like this inner peace while you do all this stuff, right? Like, because life's gonna be busy, life's gonna be hard. You've got a lot of things going on, and that's never gonna change, right? Like, so how do you get ready and set yourself up for success and prepare to face the day, right? And like, you know, friends are like, "Why do you go to the gym so early?" And I was like, "I go to the gym for a lot of times to function, right? Like if I don't have this like outlet to like work out and get my cardio in and like get myself set up for success, like the rest of the day is harder, right? Because I'm thinking about like, oh, I could have done that, or like I have a ton of extra energy I should have burned off, right? So sometimes it's really just about like that inner mental health, right? Like, yeah, I like the physical health too, and like physically feel it, but like a lot of the weight training and lifting for me is mental health and being on track that way and feeling like in tune with myself. For me, it's like a form of meditation when I'm exercising. I really try to get focused and into it and feel in one with myself and feel in touch with like how my body feels. And it really just like inspires the rest of my day to be great.
All right, Brian Shaw, be great. But like,
Yeah.
I want to double back. I want to double back to something that you said. Is like sometimes you're like very often you take the weekends to set yourself up for success during the week. It made me think of this scene from the TV show How I Met Your Mother,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it was a flashback, and I don't remember all the characters' names. I haven't watched that show since college, but it was a flashback scene where the two guys are in college. They're smoking weed. They're being dumb like a lot of college students are, and it's this idea of they have responsibilities, but then they look at each other and they're like, you know what that sounds like a problem for, or who that sounds a problem for? Future Greg,
Yeah.
or whatever, or whoever it is, like whatever their actual name is in the show, Future Ted or whatever. And this idea, the joke there is like, we don't have to take care of it now, but if we don't take care of it now, it's going to be a problem for us in the future, right? And one of the things that I was talking with clients about a lot is that you have to make things so easy that you can't not do them, right? So like dating back to like one of the very first conversations we ever had in a podcast like this was like one of the things that I want to get my clients started on, if they don't, is to drink regular water. How do you do that? If you don't have a regular water habit, how do you do that? And like one of the easiest entry points was to take a bottle of water or a glass of water, whatever, and set it on your bathroom sink the night before, so that when you wake up, you know the first place you're going to go is probably the bathroom when you wake up, right? So you know you're already going to be there. So put the thing that you need to do right where you know you're going to be without fail.
Yep.
And when you go there, make sure that the water is finished before you leave. It doesn't have to be a 32 ounce, a 64 ounce, 2 water bottles, whatever. You can put a little Dixie cup for all I care, but like you put some water in there and you start to build that habit. You wake up, you go to the bathroom, you drink water. You wake up, you go to the bathroom, you drink water. And that's how you kind of start, changing these habits, because habits are changeable. It's not that you don't lose habits, you change them, because we all have habits, right? We're all subconsciously driven more than we actually realize. And so you have to get ahead of that. You have to use tools to set yourself up. Like, if I wanted to make my food this morning, I better make sure that the food was in the refrigerator last night. It's really like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
astonishingly difficult, but it's It's not overly complex, but in some instances, when you're not conditioned to think like that, you wake up, oh crap, I don't have the food in the fridge. You show up at work and somebody brought a box of donuts and you're really freaking hungry. What are you going to do? You're
Yep.
probably going to have the donuts. Like,
Yep.
using a pertinent example that I have my eggs, and I have like a overnight oats thing that I make every day.
Nice.
And last week, when I was celebrating 2 years clean, somebody on the job brought cookies and shortcakes and whatever, all kinds of crap. Loaded it up. And like when somebody gives me something, I just say thank you. I don't say no, I'm good. Because like, I don't know. To me, that's a lack of graciousness towards the other
Hmm.
person. If I don't accept it, then I deprive that person the feeling good of giving. So,
Yeah.
whatever. Thank you. I put those things into my lunchbox, and I ate my breakfast like I usually do. And guess what? By the time I finished my breakfast, I didn't want the cookies. I didn't want the shortcake. I ended up throwing that crap out because I didn't want it. I accepted it graciously. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much for the gesture, but I didn't want it. But same scenario, I didn't make sure my refrigerator was full. I didn't meal prep. I show up to the job. I have to work an 8.5 hour job, and I don't have any food. And somebody put cookies in front of me. What am I probably going to do?
You need cookies. Yeah.
I'm probably going to eat cookies, right? So safeguard your decisions by being prepared. If you're prepared and you know, excuse me, you know what your day is supposed to look like, you know what your food is supposed to look like, you know what your water is supposed to look like, it's a lot harder to fall off.
Yeah.
And it's really like, make it easy to follow through, and you'll follow through.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's really just about having yourself set up for success. I do the same thing. I've got like, in case I don't have, for some reason, if I don't have food, there's like stuff at work that's like at my office that's like healthy and on track. There's always a couple snacks in my car in case I'm like somewhere and like something happens and like I need something or something takes longer, right? You know what I mean? I've got like tuna packets and like stuff like that, like stashed in my office. You know what I mean? Like in case I didn't have something, right? Like, not that I wouldn't show up either, but like I like to even take it one step further, man. Like a lot of these apps nowadays, you can put in your lunch for the next day. So like I pack my meals and stuff, and I put in my lunch for the next day and my meals for the next day. So it's not even like a decision throughout the day. I'm like, cool, this is what I eat tomorrow at what time, and it's already done. I already thought about it. It's already planned out, right? And I have the same thing happen when people like try to give me cake and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. You know what I mean? But I never eat
Right.
it. The worst is if someone like bakes something for me, then I'm like, oh man, now I feel obligated because you like took time to bake this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I have a friend that she usually tries to bake things for my birthday. I'm like, you can't do that in the season. You could cook for me in November. And so I was like, you could make me muffins in November. And I was like, all right. She's like, all right. She reminded me, it's like it's almost November. I'm making you muffins soon. I'm like, it's almost time, yeah. But like, uh, yeah, man, it's like that's the biggest thing is like, what do you do in social situations? What do you do if it's like someone's birthday? What if you do if someone wants to go eat out and you're supposed to be on track for this diet? Like, how much, how strict you have to be? And like the answer to that is it kind of depends on like how strict your goals are, right? If you got like a date or a goal in mind, you got like a wedding or a photo shoot or like whatever it is, you got to probably be pretty strict and be like, no, I'm not going to eat out with you guys, or I'll just go get water and like, I'll go out with my wife to dinner and I'll just sit there and watch her eat. And at first she used to get mad. Now she's just like, whatever, it's what you do. You know what I mean? So I just go with her, right? I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, and a lot of times I'll bring in my little food container. And most restaurants, no restaurant has given me a hard time. People are like, oh, what? You're not supposed to bring outside food. And I'm like, no one's ever cared. If I brought in a food container and asked for a fork, they see exactly what I'm doing. They're like, all right, yeah, whatever, here, man. You know?
Right.
um, and so set yourself up for success. Expect the hard challenges that are going to come up throughout the day, like sweets and candies, and just learn to say no, man. You know, and even like the big one that's come up recently is my kid will be like, "Do you want some of this?" And I'll be like, "No, Daddy doesn't eat those." He'll be like, he'll look at me funny. He's like, "You don't eat candy?" And I'm like, "No, I don't eat candy." He's like, "Okay," and he just keeps it. But he's like, you see him processing it. He's like, "What? Like, you don't eat candy?" I'm like, "No, I don't eat candy, man." But
Right.
thanks. Um, I like to have, like you said, I have water by my bedside, and that's what I tell clients too, is first thing, get that water in, right? Like, do the little things, do the steamable acts all the time that make you feel better, right? And then take it one step further. If you have a lot of these healthy habits set up, but you're still struggling, like maybe mentally or like, confidence wise, right? Start helping other people, man. Like, help other people around you. Like, go volunteer, go do something, right? Like, go share at a meeting or, like go help somebody who maybe can't help themselves in like a way that doesn't feel like, oh, look, I took a picture for Instagram. Like, do it without telling people, right? Like, just go help
Right.
somebody. You know what I mean? You'll probably feel better about yourself. That's the way I like to build steamable acts, right? I know I've talked about this before, but the four sides, like physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and you really need all four, right? And like, when I talk about like spiritual, a lot of times it's about how do you give back. And like, I have this one client, she's in her 80s, and when she came to me, she was like a car accident injury case, right? So
Okay.
the lawyer paid out a lot of the money, whatever the lawsuit eventually paid out like my service fees after about a year, which I knew up front. She was like, cool, when this case settles, I'll be able to pay you. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And so she paid me. But since then, that was like a year and a half ago. She really can't afford to pay me. So I just haven't charged her, and I just train her every week because I'm just like, man, like you need this. You need to keep moving. Like I don't really care. You know what I mean? And so like, that's the kind of things I like to do nowadays because I'm in a position that I can, right? And like she's in one of my weirder slots, like 12:30 on a Wednesday, which is like in the past was a harder slot to fill, but like now it's just what I do every week, and I look forward to seeing her, and I look forward to talking to her, and she's really interesting. And now we got her on a plan to go hike Mammoth Lake for her next birthday in September, so she's like getting ready to hike that and hike to 10,000 feet elevation. I'm like, it's
Wow.
really inspiring to watch her do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm just like,
For
yeah,
sure.
just keep training. It makes me feel good every week when I talk to her. She's super nice, super interesting, great backstory. Sometimes some of our sessions are just her talking. Like when she's kind of tired, I'm like, all right, well, just tell me about your history of life and job, and she'll just start talking. I'm like, man, that's really interesting, actually.
That is for sure. What
Yeah,
that
yeah,
makes me, what that makes me think of, man, is that um, you have no idea how your experience will positively influence other people or positively impact other people, right? So, like in the same way that you just mentioned your son, and when you say you don't eat candy, your son's trying to figure out, like, for sure he's put more thought into that than we even realize, because kids are extremely observant. But when I started doing this job at this hotel, one of the guys that I work with claimed that he has a spine beyond repair. Like, he's 36, 37, I don't know, somewhere in there. But he's got a spine that is beyond repair. I didn't argue with him. I was like, okay, whatever. You're walking, so I would assume that it's actually repairable. But I didn't say that, right? This is why I just listen to people, right? So I listened to him. I nodded. Like, it usually left me with having to carry the 5 gallon buckets up 3 or 4 flights of stairs, which I'm totally cool with. I like the things that suck. I've already established that. So, cool, I'll do it. But yesterday, it was just me and this guy on the job, and you know, shooting the crap, throwing some jokes back and forth, and then on the way home, I shared the story from my own personal experience. My experience with this job, when I first took this job, it's been a long time since I've had a job like this, physical in some natures. So I started to experience pain in the right side of my low back, like right around QL, if anyone wants to try to get nerdy. But I started to feel pain in the right side of my low back a couple days after I started this job. And I know it was just an acclimation period, but I've helped so many people with the same problem. I came into the gym, I did the stuff that I know. Pain went away in one session, and it hasn't come back because I know how to maintain daily practices to ensure that it doesn't come back. Because I've done it a lot by helping other people with it. So I shared that story with this guy, and he was like, and that opened him up. He's like, he started to tell me about his spinal injury. He started to tell me what the problem was. And like L4, L5, which is one of the most common, for me, lumbar spine issues out there. Actually, it's the most common spinal issue that I've come across as a trainer. And when he asked, or when he said L4, L5, it's beyond recall, or it's beyond repair, huh? Because he always finishes with that huh question. And I told him, no, I've seen a lot of people come back from it. I don't think it's an issue. In fact, these are the 3 exercises. I always revert to Stuart McGill when it comes to back stuff, spinal stuff. And so I was like, these are the 3 exercises. This is ground zero. You don't stay here because you're living life. If you're handling 55 to 65 pound gallon, 5-gallon buckets of paint, you're going to need more stability than a bird dog to be able to sustain that, right? So it's ground zero. It's not, you don't stay here, but this is where you start. He went home, he did those exercises, he came back to the next day, yesterday, checked in with me about it. Now, here's the part that really made me happy, that really made me proud of him, was that we had to carry about 100 gallons of paint from the center of the first floor to the stairwell up to the second floor, and then to where the pump was, where the airless paint sprayer was. And what surprised me was that he decided that he was going to carry some of the buckets, carry 2 at a time, which is huge for this guy, because at first, when I first started working with him, he said 2 buckets would kill my spine. I'm like, okay. So he carried 2 buckets at a time twice. He said he was scared, but he did it anyway. And then once we got all of the buckets to the bottom of the stairwell, I started carrying stuff up, but then I needed to do a walkthrough with one of the guys. So I went and did a walkthrough. I had every intention of coming back and pulling that paint up to the second floor. He did it instead. 2 at a time, up flights of stairs. And I didn't tell him to do that, but I'm positive if I had told him that I think that you can do it, me saying that goes directly against the belief system that he has ingrained, given to him by a doctor. So why would he listen to me? He wouldn't, right? But instead of saying you should do it or you can do it, I shared my own experience. I gave him the starting point, and then hands off. It's kind of like when somebody asks to do the steps or asks you to sponsor them. It's like, well, do this, hands off. If they do it, you know they're serious. If they don't, live your life, man. You're obviously not powerless enough yet, right? So this guy, powerless enough, he's like, you know what? I'm tired of being like this. Let me try what this guy is saying. Apparently he fixed his own back problem and hasn't had a problem since. Let me try it. He tried it. He did stuff yesterday that I guarantee you 3 weeks ago when he first got on the site, he would have said was impossible. That's really cool. And at no point did I try to tell him what he should do or how he should do it or whatever. I just shared a story relevant to the context of the situation, right? This is where you need to find someone that has the experience that you're looking for. If you're looking for marriage experience, you probably shouldn't go to the guy that's been divorced 3 times. Or, I mean, unless if that's what you're going for. But
it might be.
might be what you're going for. If you're trying to find financial success, you probably shouldn't go to the hobo on the street, right? So my ultimate point is, it's not about telling people anything. You didn't like to be told what to do. I don't like to be told what to do necessarily, but if you can make someone curious enough to ask, they'll probably try it, right? So it's this idea of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, but you can make him really thirsty so that he'll probably drink, right? So the idea is that you can't make anybody do anything, but you can make them curious enough that they're willing to try.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised at when people start challenging and shedding old belief systems that kept them paralyzed, like how empowering that is to do the next right thing or to do any of the things that we talked about. Because if you have such a negative self-defeatist mindset about what you're capable of doing, the simplest tasks seem impossible. But if you can start to question, why do I believe that about myself? This is my process. Like, why do I believe that about myself? Is it actually true? What if I try to do this water thing? What if I try to make sure to work out at 2 in the morning before my 5 a.m. workout, my 5 a.m. client? Like, what if I commit myself to doing these things, and like time and again, I would make a commitment to myself to do something that was difficult, and when I followed through, it built belief in myself just a little bit more, 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 and lo and behold, I finally, at this point in my sobriety, don't feel inferior to other people. Because
Good.
that's the thing that, like, I don't it doesn't make sense to me how someone can feel superior to other people. I don't know, way I was raised, conditioned, born, whatever, nature versus nurture. I don't know how, like, if you want to have that, in the weeds kind of psychological conversation, but like, I don't know. I've never connected with someone that said that they had a God complex. I've always felt less than other people, right? But like, I started doing these things, and lo and behold, that self defeatist mindset slowly, slowly, slowly starts to loosen its grip until now I finally feel as though I'm on a level playing field with humanity.
Nice. Yeah, man. I totally agree with what you said. You know what I mean? Uh, and I do the same thing, right? Like, with my weight loss story, I've lost 100 pounds. And so a lot of times people are like, well, I couldn't do that. And I just point at my before picture. I'm like, I used to think that. You know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
I used to have all like, I used to have a lot of those same things like, oh, well, it's my family. I'm big boned. I just carry weight. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it is, like, I used to tell myself all those things, and now I hear clients say a lot of the same stuff. And same with a back injury, right? Like, I have a L5, L4, L5 injury, right? And a doctor said the same thing. They're like, oh, you shouldn't lift weights, you shouldn't do anything. And I was like, that's wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in case anyone's wondering, the big McGill 3 are bird dogs, dead bugs, and paused raised head sit-ups. Um, Check those out if you haven't. You should do them every day, regardless. Uh, but like, really, it's like just breaking that core belief system, right? Like, that I can't, I won't, I shouldn't. Someone said I couldn't, right? Like, a lot of times it comes deeper, like deeper from like childhood and stuff, and people are just like so caught up in these like thought processes where they're like, oh, I don't know. I have this one client, super smart guy, like PhD in like engineering or like systems engineering or something, and like, he tried to tell me one day that tracking macros is hard, and I just stopped him. I was like, what? You write entire system programs for teams of people in other countries to like follow, and you're telling me that tracking macros is hard, like mentally hard, like you can't do the math? And he was like, let's bring that back. What's going on? And when we dug deep, and I was like, when did this start? You know what I mean? And he's like, well, when I was 12, my dad looked at me and instead of passing comment like, oh, when I was 12, I didn't have a belly. And so he just internalized that as
Yeah.
he just has a belly, right? Like, that's how he self-identifies. So everything around losing this belly was a challenge, difficult and hard. And like, once we were able to identify that, he was like, oh. And so since then we've been working on it. And now it's just like, okay, I know what I need to do, and what he needs to do is to get to the next right step. But it's like, really, a lot of times these like self-identifications come from childhood. Like, maybe your friend's back injury wasn't from childhood, but like, he was told at some point he couldn't do something, and he shouldn't do something. So next time someone tells him he can't do something, he says, okay, right? Like, he doesn't have this like self-esteem and self-confidence built up to be like, no, I think I could do this.
Right.
And the other side of that is like, learn how to fail, right? Like, I fail all the time, man. Like, not all of my business ventures work out. Not all of my programs work out. This is like, I had my own business before this for catering. That didn't work out, right? Like, lots of things don't work out, but that never stopped me. Just like, all right, cool. Move on to the next thing. Like, in the same vein, I had a different client be like, oh, well, I did this thing and it didn't work out. And I was like, cool, you just do something else. Like, that's fine. It's okay. You're going to fail. You're going to fail a lot. And it's okay if you're going to fail, and you just kind of build from that. And like, once you have that nice solid self-esteem and self-confidence, like, you understand that failure is just part of the game, right? Like, you don't have to fail a bunch before you succeed. And like, all these people are like, oh, that person was an overnight millionaire, or that person was an overnight success. Like, no, you didn't see the long hours and hard work they put in.
Right.
And then, like, same stuff with, like, with, like, how I look now. People are like, "Man, you look amazing. Your transformation's great." I was like, "It's been 7 years, man, since I've seen you." Like, it's been 7 years since this process started. A lot of long, hard decisions to get to this point.
Right.
And that's okay. I'm cool with that, right? You know? So I think we're gonna finish there, man. You got any closing comments?
It took me 10 years to become an overnight success.
Took me 10 years to become an overnight success. Yeah, exactly, man. All right, man. I think we'll talk about that next week. Thanks for hopping on. It was cool that we fit this in, and you got your workout in. That was great.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. I'll see you next week.
See you.